This interview is brought to you by Fortinet Federal. How can your agency improve network visibility, control, and cyber defense? With advanced technology and expert support from Fortinet Federal. Advance your mission with modern, trusted networks that connect data centers, clouds, and remote users. For more, see FortinetFederal.com.
I'm Ralph John Fortuné. I am the managing editor here at GovCIO Media and Research, coming at you in Baltimore at AFCEA TechNet Cyber 2024. With me is Brigadier General Heather Blackwell. Let me get your title right, the Deputy Commander of Joint Force Headquarters, DODIN.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for joining me.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So the major threats to DODIN, what are they and how do you see them? How are you working against them?
There's many threats, as you can imagine, and the adversary continues to evolve. And the complexity of the threats that they have, to me, the biggest threat is data. How do we make sure that we have data consistency across the DODIN? As you listen to General Hawk or my boss, General Skinner, they'll talk about the fact that the DODIN, the DoD's information network, is the third largest network in the world. So how do I make sure that I get data from all of the endpoints, all of the internet access points, put it together and use artificial intelligence or any kind of machine learning to see the adversary in all of the data that we have out there? So management of that data is probably one of our biggest challenges.
You mentioned artificial intelligence and machine learning, so you set me up well.
Oh, no, okay.
Well, how is that, can you expand on how that helps protecting data?
So there's two angles that we can take on it. How do we secure artificial intelligence so that when we actually use it, that we know that it hasn't been tampered with? So on the other end, how do we use artificial intelligence for defense across the DODIN? You probably heard General Hawk speak earlier. Like, all goes back to the data. I don't want to start getting too far into artificial intelligence until I really get my arms around data standards, the key aspects of the data that I need to secure, operate, and defend the DODIN.
How do you do that? How do you get your arms around that? All the standards, all the governance, all of that stuff. How do you do that?
It is very tough, yes, sir. So the mission for Joint Force Headquarters DODIN is to synchronize efforts across what we call 45 DAOs, DODIN areas of operation, people who own different chunks of the DODIN. So I can't manage it all just by me. So we have to rely on all of our partners to get after this. So partnering with them to see what data they have, to see if there's any best practices out there. For example, the Army has done some amazing work with data standards. So how do we take the amazing work that's been done and synchronize that across the entire DODIN? That's what our job is at Joint Force Headquarters DODIN.
Well, you mentioned military service in the Army. What about industry partnerships? How does that factor into data governance, lessons learned, the whole of partnerships?
Yes, sir. So the whole of partnerships is the key there. So you mentioned it, partnerships with industry. And so one beg that I have for industry is bake cybersecurity in from the very beginning. When we try to strap on cyber defense or cybersecurity after a product has been delivered, that makes our jobs a lot harder. So the more industry can bake in cybersecurity at the beginning helps us out tremendously. But that's not the only partnership that we rely on. You've got NSA. You've got the collaboration center that NSA does that brings in industry partners and it helps them with intel and to make sure that we can robust their networks. The other partners that we have are academia, and I would still argue the other partners that we have is our foreign allies and partners. So all of us together is what's really going to provide deterrence in cyberspace.
Okay, so to that end, you need a lot of hands, you need a lot of people, you need a lot of people coming in. Digital natives, cybersecurity is sort of second nature to a lot of them. I don't want to say everybody, don't want to paint with too broad a brush. So how is the workforce aspect of this job factoring into cybersecurity at DODIN?
I'm very excited about the workforce that we're getting in. Because you're right, they come with already the ideas of how to use technology. So how do we continue to harness the creativity of all of those digital natives and help them apply that creativity to the wicked problems that we have of securing, operating, and defending the DODIN? We welcome them. We have a booth that we want to hire some more of them. So I'm very excited about the amazing talent that is out there in the United States and what they can do from a civilian perspective or a military perspective or even a contractor's perspective to help supplement our workforce.
I want to pivot a little and talk about increasing partnerships. Like what kind of opportunities are around to increase the information sharing, the partnerships, all the stuff that DODIN does with the aforementioned organizations you named.
Sure. So the two key partners, right? So my boss, Lieutenant General Skinner, he actually wears two hats. So he is the director of DISA as a service provider. And through that hat, he works for the DOD CIO. The DOD CIO is working with industry to make sure that they set good standards. They provide good guidance and policy so that all forms of industry understand the security standards that are required to be a part of the defense industrial base. General Skinner's other hat is through, he's the commander of Joint Force Headquarters DODIN, so he works for General Hawk in Cyber Command. Luckily for us, General Hawk is also dual-hatted as NSA director. So again, I will foot stomp the Cyberspace Collaboration Center that NSA has. It's such an amazing location for all industry to come in. It's a volunteer organization, but helps them understand the intel threats that are out there and helps robust their networks, no matter how big the company is. So neat partnerships on both sides.
This stuff changes so quickly, not just the technology side of it, but the tactics, everything. How do you future-proof the cybersecurity that, you talked about needing to be baked in basically initially? How do you do that if it's different on Wednesday than it was on Monday?
That's a great point. And so again, I go back to General Hawk's speech he just gave. When he talks about cyber resiliency, it's also the ability to forecast what the adversary may do, identify that technology that can be exploited, and be able to adapt quickly and bring capabilities back up. So the using intel to be able to anticipate what the adversary is going to do, and in what environments. Is it the OT environment? Is it cloud environment? What environments are under the biggest threat? And how can we make sure that those environments are as secure that they can be? So I think the cyber resiliency piece is an important aspect.
He also mentioned, not to talk too much about General Hawk, but he also talked about the ability to adapt within building resiliency. How is DODIN doing?
The technology that we are employing day to day, I'm very excited about it because it is giving us the opportunity to employ the same technology both at the endpoints and at our internet access points, which means we can have a better capability to see where the adversary is and what we call is maneuver this domain to be able to shift the adversary, block the adversary, and make sure that our missions continue to go. So employment of technology to make sure that we remain agile is, I think, one of our biggest strengths.
All right, I'll end on this just because it's kind of a circling back to something we talked about earlier, which is all these people on the network, all these devices, all these things. I know Zero Trust is a big part of cybersecurity and a big emphasis right now. How is that implementation working for DODIN, and how do you eat that elephant, as it were?
Well, this is where I appreciate the partnership that we have with the DoD CIO. The DoD CIO has set up a great strategy for Zero Trust. As we talked about, Zero Trust is a journey, and it's hard. And I need to be very deliberate about what elements of Zero Trust that I implement today and what elements I will budget for and implement tomorrow. What keeps us most secure, and what can really help us defend against the adversary. But again, we can talk about the technology all day long. I also love to foot stomp the fact that investing in our people is one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah, I know hiring, upskilling, retaining. I know that's an emphasis of everyone. I'm sure you're deep into that, correct?
I am. I'm very passionate about it. Again, I think growing our people, investing in them, making sure that they feel valued in the organization, and giving them a vision for the future is one of the favorite aspects about this job.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, sir. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This interview is also brought to you by Comcast Government Services. Find out how Comcast Government Services is providing solutions to the federal government that enable mission-critical network transformation designed to scale with evolving needs. Visit comcastbusiness.com/FedGov to learn more.